Dana Lash, conservative radio host, DanaRadio.com. Dana, how are you this afternoon?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back. It's good to talk with you again.
Listen, I love having you on the program. You're doing some great stuff. You wrote about the absolute inanity from Chicago Police Chief Gary McCarthy at Red State, where he basically said the Second Amendment is a danger to public safety. He said that we have a right to smoothbore muskets and that our rights should be dictated based on public opinion polls, among other things.
Yeah, I mean, what's scary about this is the guy who's running Chicago's police department, and if he lacks the understanding of the Second Amendment, what other amendments, like the Fourth Amendment, perhaps, does he not understand? But he went on the Chicago Sunday morning talk show circuit, and he said that individuals, law-abiding gun owners who lobby their elected representatives, folks, like you and I, who donate money to political campaigns and stand up for our Second Amendment rights, that we're somehow engaged in corruption. That's his quote. We're engaged in corruption, and we're endangering public safety by doing so. Which seems kind of crazy considering law-abiding gun owners are not the people that Chicago is having a problem with right now.
Well, no, exactly right, and that's the thing. What Superintendent McCarthy, I think, Dana, I think he gets it. I just think he ignores it. These laws, what all that they've done is they have taken away and eradicated, they've bulldozed over the responsible gun culture that used to exist in Chicago at one point in time. But if you don't have ranges, if it costs you hundreds of dollars to exercise a fundamental constitutional right, if you know that you're going to be denied at any given opportunity and you're going to be seen as the problem, well, you're not going to want to be a legal law-abiding gun owner. Or at least the numbers of folks who are willing to, take that risk, it goes down.
Yeah, exactly. And he brought up, and you mentioned this, the smoothbore musket, which we had rifling back then. I mean, that wasn't the firearm that won the Revolutionary War, and he just ignores history. I mean, we had the Belton gun that was introduced to the Continental Congress in 1777, which arguably could be the first, and I'm using dramatic air quotes here, assault rifle. So our founding fathers were well aware of the progression of firearms capabilities and technology. Which is why they were very careful in their wording when they were drafting the Second Amendment. So for him to argue something like that, I think just frankly it just shows his ignorance. But it's scary because this is a guy he wants Chicago's citizenry to be disarmed. He wants nothing said about the criminals, and somehow we're the folks in Chicago are the lawbreakers. They're the criminals simply because they want to stick up and say, hey, people like Otis McDonald, they want to say, hey, our neighborhoods are rife with crime. We would like to be able to carry. And I wanted to note this as well. This is what fascinates me the most about all of this. I happened to find a study of police departments who they were discussing, they have limitations set on officers' blood alcohol limits. I didn't know you could be a police officer or carry and be in your uniform and drink, because in the state of Missouri, concealed carry, you obviously can't walk into a bar and drink and be packing a pistol. But Chicago, they have set their blood alcohol limit for their police department at .02. Now, on average, that actually impairs your judgment and affects your ability to drive. And the city of Chicago, this is Gary McCarthy's police department, had to settle for over $4 million to the family of a man that they shot because the officer was reportedly drinking prior to his shift. So here you have Gary McCarthy, who thinks that law-abiding gun owners are bad. They pose a threat to public safety. Buzzed police officers, though, in gun-free Chicago don't.
Go figure. And here's the thing, Dana. This isn't just happening in Chicago. You've written about what's going on there in Missouri, where you actually have lawmakers who are proposing. Are they really proposing confiscation of firearms?
Yeah, absolutely. And the definition. I was reading the wording of their legislation. The definition is so unbelievably broad that essentially it would be accurate to say that they are pushing for the confiscation of semi-automatic firearms, which is kind of, that's complete violation of the Second Amendment. It's for Democrats, and it's interesting to note too. These 4 Democrats, they live pretty much in suburban areas, so none of these folks actually live out or probably have experience out in southern Missouri, rural areas where my family lives, where they hunt and people have their rifles in the back of their pickup trucks. So they really don't, they're not really in touch with people in Missouri who need their firearms with them. But these 4 Democrats that drafted this legislation, they've only read through it twice. Luckily for Missouri, we have a Republican supermajority, so I don't anticipate this getting even out of committee. But the problem with this is I think this is kind of a case of Overton window. Either that or they're sort of testing the waters, because you can't tell me that it is not a coincidence, or that it's merely a coincidence that all of these states, Minnesota, Colorado, all of these states are passing legislation looking to limit our Second Amendment rights. In a lot of cases, for instance, Minnesota's law that just appeared in their state legislature, the language is almost identical to Missouri's legislation. So it seems to me that this is kind of an organized state-by-state effort to impede on our Second Amendment rights.
Well, I think you're onto something there, Dana. I mean, we were talking earlier in Washington State, their semi-auto ban had a provision that current owners could keep their registered firearms as long as they open up their homes for a inspection by law enforcement once a year. There's similar language in a bill in New Jersey right now as well. And so, some of these gun control groups like Legal Community Against Violence or Lawyers Against Guns, they write draft legislation, and a lot of times the anti-gun folks move this. So it really would be curious. I mean, I've seen a lot of these legislators say, oh, I don't know how this got in there. Oh, this was a mistake. Oh, this shouldn't have gotten in there. Well, then who wrote your bill for you?
Yeah, exactly. Who was it that wrote your legislation? That and these lawmakers, I know we have Rory Ellinger, who's of University City, an urban area here in St. Louis, and Jill Shupp of Creve Coeur, which is a very affluent suburban area. They're upset because they said that they've been receiving angry calls and emails because people, of course, undeniably reacted very negatively to this gun grab. And so the elected officials are actually disparaging the citizenry for contacting their public office numbers, which are available online. They said, we're not going to let them push me around. That's Ellinger's direct quote. I'm not going to let them push me around. He's talking about his constituency. Missouri is, even though it's weird politically, I'm telling you, when you start talking about Second Amendment and limiting the Second Amendment, you get people who have Obama stickers on their trucks pulling them off because they're violating that Second Amendment right.
Yeah. No, listen, Dana, I got an email, and it's not the first one that I've gotten from Democrats, but I got an email from a guy this morning who said, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I can't actually repeat what he said in the next sentence. But, he's very upset about this. We've been following the votes in Colorado this afternoon as they've passed 4 gun control measures by very, very narrow margins. One of them was, I think, a 33-32 vote. A lot of these politicians, they've been told by President Obama, Vice President Biden, and others, this time it's different. You can vote for gun control, and you're going to keep your job. You're not going to get voted out of office. And you know what? This year in New Jersey and Virginia, we'll see. Next year, all around the country, that's going to be the real test.
Yeah, I think they're trying to reenact 1994, but when they passed the assault weapons ban, Democrats just a few months later, they lost massively. That's when we had the Republican Revolution and so on and so forth, and I think that Bill Clinton, for crying out loud, has been warning the Obama administration, look, you have to be careful talking about gun control because you're going to get a lot of these more moderate Democrats and folks who may vote Democrat in rural areas. Essentially, they're going to be revolting against you. So I think they're trying to do an in-run around that by going state by state. Which that for us seems to be easier because it's just a couple hours and we can get to our state capital as citizens and put pressure on these folks ourselves.
Yeah, no, that's true. And the other thing, is you've got a lot of outside money coming in. We've talked about Mayor Bloomberg and that second congressional district special election in Illinois, where he's put in more than $2 million in the Democrat primary to try to knock Debbie Halverson out and put Robin Kelly in, and presumably would be the odds-on favorite to win that seat. Dana, $2 million in a primary. That's some serious coin.
Yeah, and it looks, you can kind of see the Democrats, they've done a lot of redistricting. They were able to get some folks like Joe Walsh and other folks out of office with their redistricting, but it shows that they were shaken because Republicans made some good ground in Illinois, and they were really, pushing through a lot of, some of the proposals they had in terms of, firearms and so on and so forth. They were scaring Democrats, basically. Cook County was getting all upset because you had these Southern Illinois Republicans that were up there causing problems. And so for them to put that much money in a state like Illinois in a primary, that's that says something. That says a lot.
Absolutely. Listen, Dana, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it, and hope we can have you back again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Always a pleasure. Thanks.